I feel like we're from NASA or something.
All
We're
right.
talking about fashion.
So,
Shall I kick us off?
Yes.
please.
Right. Okay. Well, we're live on Facebook and Instagram. My name's Kathleen Erdley. I'm here with Joanne Griffin and Elizabeth Stiles, and we're going to be talking to you about the 5 biggest mistakes to avoid when you're starting a fashion brand. So the 3 of us. So I was just thinking about this earlier. So Elizabeth and I met through Facebook, right? And you guys met through Instagram.
Yes.
Yeah. And we all have a shared background in retail. So I think we worked out between us, we've got 35 years of experience in fashion retail or retail altogether, which is a long time.
Yeah.
And so we've been working all summer on this workshop that we're really excited about. We're going to tell you a little bit more about that at the end. But we thought we would kick off with the 5 biggest mistakes to avoid. So for any of you, if you're sitting there thinking that you'd really love to get started with your own clothing brand, whether that's women's, men's, kids, accessories, but you're worried about what you shouldn't do, then we're going to run through the top 5 mistakes. Sound good?
Not
Okay,
to
so
scare you or anything. We're going to be nice, I promise.
oh yeah.
Lots of helpful tips here.
Yeah.
Of course, if you've got any questions, please jump in and I'll manage the Facebook questions if you guys can watch Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the first one then to kick us off. So the biggest mistake, number 1, is not understanding your customer.
Yeah.
And so do you want to jump in, Elizabeth?
I'd say that's probably the biggest mistake that I've noticed people making so far when speaking to people. And I guess when you start a brand, you're always sort of trying to solve a problem. Like a business isn't a business unless you're solving someone's problem. Right. And to know what the problem is, you need to know. Oh, I'm back. You need to know who it is that has the problem. So when people start, it's usually something that they've noticed themselves, that where there's a gap in the market. So say, for example, I don't know, Uniqlo noticed that everyone was making everything too fancy and putting bells on everything. And they noticed that people wanted something really simple and only to sell basics. So they knew that their customer wanted that, and then they were solving that problem by giving it to them at a really good price. And yeah, you go.
And I just think trying to really visualize your customer really helps too. So like give her or him a name. Really think about where they live, how much they earn, where they go shopping, what they like, what they don't like, what are their dreams, their values, what don't they like, where do they hang out, what do they read. So really try and build up a picture of them. And I think as well, don't try and cater to everyone, because that's a really big mistake. You actually want to be more niche with your customer, because if you're shouting to everyone, no one's listening.
Yeah. There's riches in the niches.
100%. And I think a lot of people have that mentality that, well, if I niche down, or if I just, talk to one particular kind of customer, but what about all of those other people who aren't, a 28-year-old woman who lives in London and loves to work out all the time? But I think the thing is if you really nail your messaging and you can get that really clear, then you can there's nothing to say that you can't add another customer avatar or ideal customer later on as you develop your product. But if you start off with just something that's too broad, exactly as you said, if you try and talk to everyone, then you're talking to nobody. So it's really important that you have that really clear idea, and the more detail that you can flesh into it, the better.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and there's so many benefits of knowing who your customer is as well. Like you can then get them involved in the journey, and you'll really trust their opinion. If you know that you're asking the person that you want to be selling to, you can get them involved with Instagram polls and saying, do you think I should be doing this color or this color? Do you even like this? If you might love something when you're sat at home in your study creating way, but you might have gone into you might have gone off on a total tangent And why don't you just go back to your customer and ask if they actually want to buy it before you've even started to put time and money into it as well?
Open-ended questions are really good, because I think sometimes if you ask people, do you like this, they'll say yes.
Yeah.
But you want to get into why
this.
they like it.
Yeah.
And colours, textures, fabrics, all of that kind of thing.
And I think that's a real buzzword at the moment as well. You know, we talk about retail, and one of the big buzzwords that comes up and time again is, instead of consumers, is that co-creation. So it's looking to have co-creators, people who are going to input into your business, which as a small startup brand, you're absolutely in the perfect position to do that. Probably in a better position than some of the bigger brands that we've all worked for, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. Somebody's just mentioned there, like, how to find your clients. So I imagine the first thing to do would be to start who you think your competitors are. So say you had a stationery brand that was really colourful and bright, you would then think, or maybe one of my competitors is Paperchase. I mean, that's
Right.
like on a bigger scale, but also looking at on a smaller scale as well. And then seeing who's following them, who's interacting with them, and then going to interact with them yourself and trying to bring them back to your account, but not in like a creepy way, just be like, a compliment goes a long way, I'd say, when you're trying to interact with people on Instagram, and just say, oh, love your page. Just keep sort of liking, commenting on their pictures, and then eventually they'll get intrigued and come over to you.
Definitely.
Instagram's the way forward.
Okay, so then the next mistake, the biggest mistake then, is trying to be too big.
Yeah, so like we were just saying before we came live, I think as a small business, you've actually got so much power in that, and you don't realize you're trying to be like the big guys, but actually you should just be little in yourself. Instead of referring as we as a company, refer as you. Really put you in your brand, and because people buy from who they know, like, and trust. So people are really going to want to like get to know you and buy from you as a company, and not think they're just talking to some faceless corporate that that they can be mean to, maybe as well, that they're going to get to know you. So I think definitely talk about yourself a lot is a really
and
good
put
tip.
Your name in your Instagram bio.
Yeah, and on your about page. Oh my God, on your website. Have an about page on your website with your name and information about you on it, not just your company. People want to know you. They're nosy.
Yeah, people are so nosy, and you really need to like benefit from that and take advantage of it and get people to know you as a person. And I think somebody like Innocent Smoothies is a perfect example of a huge, huge company that tries to be really small, whereas you're the tiny company trying to be big. And you just need to make the most of being so close to your customer. When you get bigger and bigger and bigger, people start outsourcing their social media, and they don't even know who they're talking to anymore. And there's too many steps away, whereas you're like so close. Just really make the most of it, and like we said, asking them what they want before you've even got to the stage of putting it out there.
And I think that this is a massive generalization, but I think women in particular are particularly bad at being really visible online and just coming out there. And a lot of makers, a lot of small businesses, they feel really nervous, and they don't kind of want to be seen as the face behind the brand. But actually, like you say, that's such an important story. That's such a way of connecting with your customers. That's such a fantastic, something that you can really leverage.
Definitely. Absolutely.
And I think on the flip side as well, I mean, avoiding trying to be too big can also speak to the fact that you shouldn't try and get too big too fast. So baby steps. I mean, most of us are bootstrapping our companies. I mean, I guess some people out there might have a major investor, but most of us are bootstrapping, and in that case, cash flow is vitally important. You've got to do it bit by bit. Don't kind of bite off more than you can chew. Take it small steps, even if it takes you longer to kind of establish and grow. You're so much better off growing at a sustainable pace than trying to run out there and do everything all at once, where you're going to burn through your money and your time and your energy, and there's a much more sustainable way to do it.
Yeah, like just being comfortable, and remembering why you started in the first place. Like maybe it was to be the biggest and quickest growing company in the world, but it's unlikely that that's why you started in the first place. It's probably because you saw a problem that you wanted to solve, and you're really passionate about solving that for that customer, and just never losing sight of that.
Yeah. And also think, do you want to suddenly quadruple your growth overnight? Can you even keep up with that? So, you know, building up is definitely slowly, it's definitely a good way to start for sure.
Okay, so then number 3, right? This one's a did did my heart here. Assuming everything will sell.
Oh God, yeah, this really does make me want to cry, because it's so true. Yeah, I've spoken on a podcast recently about the mistakes people make in business, actually, and one of them was this. And I think everyone's done a craft fair thinking, oh my God, I don't know how much stuff to take, I'm just going to take everything, because I'm definitely going to sell out. And you see these posters for craft fairs, you know, that's like, oh, the footfall's 100,000 people per day, and you're like, oh, surely 1% of those is going to buy from me, and you're like, no, you know, it's so hard. So
yeah, I think, you know, probably, although it can be tempting to order more as well of, say, your stock because it's a better price, if it doesn't sell, then you're stuck with you know, stock. So really thinking like, actually, do I just want to order 50 of everything, especially in fashion, because if you've got so many different colors and sizes, you've got, you know, such a big range. And that's something that we're going to talk about in our workshop on the 1st of September that Catherine's going to go into in more detail. So really thinking about bringing that those quantities down, because then if it does sell, then you can reorder, and you just you know, you get that better price in the end, but you don't end up with that dead stock. So just really, and I think just sometimes it can surprise you what people want. Sometimes what you think is going to be your bestseller, it's not, and then something that won't, it takes over. So it's a great learning curve when you're first starting out to really just see what's selling, and as you develop your range as well.
Sure. And I think the statistic that I always like to quote in these situations is that before you've sold anything, you've actually only got a 50% chance of getting it right. And by that, I mean, you know, getting it correctly, identifying a bestseller, correctly identifying what's not going to work. And that holds true even if you're dealing with a buyer who has spent their whole career in that sector, and a skilled team of forecasters or merchandisers who really know their stuff, because it's really hard, especially on something like fashion, which is so subjective, that you just don't know
as well. People change their mind. They might like something one week and not the next.
Oh, 100%. And exactly as you said, Jan, it can be really tempting when you're starting out that you'll see, oh, well, if I order 500 of these, then my cost price really goes down. But, you know, the thing is that once you've got just 2 weeks of selling, so all it takes is 2 weeks of sales information, and you then have an 80% chance of correctly forecasting how much you're going to sell. So it's really all about that small quantities, trialing, learning, moving on. And it's so important for people who are starting up to not jump in with both feet and commit themselves, because like you say, you've got all that stock and it's just going to sit there, and it's really heartbreaking. So small quantities, even if it's not advantageous cost price to begin with, learn from it, move on, is by far the most profitable model for operating your business.
Yeah.
And
sorry. No, I just think just like running a business is a learning curve on a daily basis. So I think that's, amazing.
I was just going to say, that's what all the big retailers do as well, especially the sort of online retailers, is trial and repeat, trial and repeat, trial and repeat. And, you know, sometimes they'll book 300 units 15 times, but they would never, ever have known at the beginning stage that they would have booked those thousands of quantities. But they know, like, yes, it's still selling. Yes, it's still selling. Yes. Oh, no, it's dropped off a cliff. Move on.
Okay, we've got a question come in. What do you think about doing a pre-order before launch, and what's the best way to do it?
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea, but especially for cash flow reasons. Just to try and get some money in, because I know that's something else that we can talk about in the workshop, but it is expensive starting a fashion brand, and it can be really, really tempting to start it because you see how big the margins are. So I think definitely from that perspective, it's worth it, and it gets people excited and they feel involved from the beginning.
You can gauge interest as well, so maybe you can actually put another order in, maybe like beforehand, like you can just really gauge what the interest is. And I think creating the hype is like really key to building up that, oh my god, it's coming. You know, just think about wait lists for all the designer labels. Like, people love it, like they just want that item.
And there's various different ways of doing it. Like you say, you can either have it on a website with like a pre-launch countdown. You can do it through social media, where you're talking to your customers, you're involving them in the process, so you're really getting a sense of what they like, what they don't, what they're responding to. And then, I mean, you can go all the way through to doing something like a crowdfunder, which is the ultimate pre-launch, really, because that's like a sort of scheduled campaign where you're effectively getting people to buy in ahead of time. But yeah, exactly. As we sort of talk about more at the workshop, then, you know, cash flow, and it's so important, and pre-launching can really help with that.
Yeah, I think it's also quite a good way to build your mailing list. Because, you know, people keep talking about, what if Instagram stops, what are you going to do? And I don't think it would anytime soon. I mean, it's the main thing that people are using like 90% of the time.
But you own your list.
You own your list. There you go.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was convinced my phone's going to do that.
Yeah, two phones, Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, I know. I've got two cameras going, which is why sometimes I feel like I've got to switch which one I'm looking at. So apologies for that. Okay, so the number 4 biggest mistake is not keeping track of your expenses and not having a clear budget. So again,
Catherine, I feel like you're the prime one to speak about.
Yeah,
this is finance queen.
Yeah. This is it. This is what I've spent my whole career doing, is making sure that all of the creative stuff makes money. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's so important. It's true. I mean, that absolutely makes or breaks small businesses is their cash flow. So being really clear from the get-go, like, what are your and it doesn't have to be really complicated. I think that's the thing that I just want to I want to hammer home, that as we'll talk about in the workshop, you can have just a couple of figures that will help you understand how many sales units you need to make each month to cover your costs. It does not have to be this hugely complicated financial modeling spreadsheet that will go, you'll spend forever crying over, and then you'll put it away and never look at it. Budgeting can be a living, breathing process. It doesn't have to be something that is incredibly difficult, and but at the same time, it's really important. So in my mind, you're much better off having a really simple approach that you then can focus in on the key numbers and track those. So you're staying on top of it, but you're not kind of overcomplicating it either.
Yeah, we've just had a couple of people comment, it's my favourite point, and cash is king, so yeah. And also I think with finance, especially as a small business or any kind of business, if it's not your strong point, outsource it, get an accountant, get some help, just get that help that you need to get you started.
But keep an eye on it. Don't take your eye off the ball.
And also, you've got to remember if you are self-employed and you're doing this full time, think about what you're paying yourself per hour. And sometimes, if it took you a whole day to do something and you're paying yourself £20 an hour, it might actually work out cheaper to outsource it to somebody who can do it in 1 hour. Just really value your time, because that's the thing. Another thing that women are really, really bad at doing. They're like, oh, it's okay,
Your time is money.
Yeah, time is money. If you're better off using that sourcing, like finding new clients and going out and networking or creating new products, or literally anything else that you're good at. Use your time wisely and outsource what you're not good at. That will take you 3 times as long as it needs to.
Great. Okay, I've got another question come through here. So Elizabeth, this is for you. So with we've got another question about pre-launch. So you'd put the order in with the manufacturer once all the orders have come in and close off the pre-order window. I guess, you'd have to do it that way, right? You'd have a period of time where you're collecting your pre-orders and then you place your order with the manufacturer.
It depends what like your lead times are. So I don't know, say you were making a t-shirt and you wanted to launch on a specific day. 1 minute, we're having battery problems. Bear with me.
Oh no.
Swap over. So yeah, you need to start with your launch date and work backwards. So say you were launching on Christmas Day, like your launch day is going to be Christmas Day, for example. And so you need to work back from there. Like if it's being made in China, how many weeks does it take for it to come from China to England? Is it coming by air or is it coming by sea? That will make a huge difference. And then it's like, how many weeks does it take to cut and sew the garment? And then work back, how long does it take to make the pattern? How long does it take for the fabric to arrive? So then you build up your lead time in sections. So, I mean, if you can ideally think of ways to reduce that lead time initially to get your product out there with your customer. Could it be that you pre-buy fabric, so that shortens your lead time, so you know when it launches on Christmas Day and it's done really well, you've got fabric waiting on the floor ready to go for the next drop? Or could it be that you bring it in by air to reduce the lead time, because that's sort of like a quarter of the time quicker than coming by sea? Yeah, I don't know if that answered the question, sorry.
I think it was, yeah, so you basically, if you're doing a pre-order though, you'd have to at one point stop the pre-orders and say, right, I've got 500 pre-orders now, therefore that's what I'm going to manufacture. Or, you know, you can't kind of keep drip feeding it through to manufacturer. They're going to need a cut-off date and an actual agreed purchase order at one point.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you need to be able to also say like how many sizes there are. So it can't say it is 500. Is it like 200 small, 200 medium, and 100 large? Or I mean, it wouldn't be that clean, but yeah, you need to know the sizes and the delivery date as well, you know, and try and stick to that. And also try and allow a buffer, because a factory might tell you one date and it probably won't be that date.
Always have.
And you don't want to let your customer down, so it's better to leave a buffer sort of behind the scenes to make sure that you're delivering on time.
Okay, great. Okay, so biggest mistake number 5 is underestimating the value of design. Joanne, this one's for you.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, from here you can start all the way from inspiration. So thinking about trends, looking for inspiration, how you look for inspiration. 1 second. Looking for inspiration, how you analyze that, how you break that down, how you let that influence you as well. And then definitely not like copying design as well. I think being influenced by it and taking bits from lots of different areas while keeping your customer front of mind is really key. So yeah, just really thinking about back to your customer, who she is and how that is influencing your design style, and then bringing all those elements together. Well, sort of, it depends what your business is. If you're going to be a slave to trends or you're not, you're going to be more classic, you know, however you're doing it, but just be really clear with your inspiration. And that's why, like in the workshop, we're going to be doing a mood board process, and I'll be talking all the way through those steps that I've just talked about. So yeah, creating a mood board, and then when you're designing, keep coming back to that mood board as well. And that could change, but I think, you know, if you've got that clear idea of what you want to create, making sure you're staying on track and not adding on all the extra bells and whistles when actually your brand is, say, Uniqlo, and it's very simple and clean. So yeah, being really, because I think as creatives as well, you can go maybe a bit crazy sometimes.
On the idea stage, the fun bit.
Yeah, it is the fun bit. So, you know, go wild, but really bring it back to that initial, what did I want to create? Who's my customer? And yeah, really thinking, bringing all that inspiration in and making sure that you've got the most, unique products that really fit your brand.
Yeah. And I think there's also a myth that if you change something 7 times then it's fine, but it is a myth. That's not true. You know, the thing is, if it can stand in the shop and it's even from the same collection, or at a glance it even looks similar, you can get done for it. So just be super careful, you know, like just look at something and then go away and think, how can I make that my own? How can I make it fit to my customer's problem that she has? How does it work in day-to-day life? You know, if it's got buttons, can I change it to a zip? If it's a spot, can I make it a stripe? Like, just how can you make those things completely different?
You don't want to get in trouble.
No.
It's not fun.
And also, that should be part of the enjoyable process, is having your own voice, creating your own vision. And like Joanne said, the process that we're going to walk through with the vision board, like, that's all about how you can then have a point of view, because we all want our companies that we buy from to have a point of view, to have a point of difference, and not just be a kind of clone of everything else. And that is the fun part, exactly as you said, of having your own fashion brand.
Yeah. And that's why you've done it as well. If it's already out there, why are you doing the same thing? To make it different, make it your own, and make it fun.
Definitely.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, all right. I have a few questions coming in. So, okay, I've got another question about pre-ordering. Sorry, guys, for some reason I can't actually see everyone's names on this. But so it says, do people not generally mind waiting 2 to 3 weeks to receive their orders? Would that not stop a lot of people from ordering? Well, if you're going to pre-order from a manufacturer, you're going to have to build in a wait time. There's no two ways about it. And most people, I think, people in general are going to be prepared to wait as long as you give them the correct time. If you say, oh yeah, I can get it for you in 2 weeks, but then it's 4 weeks, then they're going to get upset. But if you say it's going to be available in 6 weeks, then people will make that decision. And I think people, if they want it badly enough, they'll wait for it. And most people understand the pre-order process that there is going to be a manufacturing time that they have to wait for.
Definitely. And I think, I know I've looked at this with another company, but can't remember all the details. But with pre-ordering, there are some sort of like rules around it, but being really clear on the timings and making that really clear on your page and in your marketing. So yeah, just making that clear for them. And I think if they want it, they'll wait. So,
I think, like you said, people will only get annoyed if you don't keep them in the loop and tell them the truth. And if there is a delay, then tell them that as well. Don't sort of panic and hope it all goes to plan. No, things go wrong in life, and especially in manufacturing. There's a million things that can go wrong, but just be really clear with your customer. Like, the fabric, isn't looking perfect, so I'm going to make it look perfect for you. I want to get something that's 100% for you. I'd rather hope that's okay with you, and just keep them in the loop all the time.
Okay, and I've got another question then. Last question. So you say that margins are great in fashion, and what should people expect? And it says, I'm finding it's not that great at the beginning with small volumes and repaying initial outlays like sampling, grading, etc. So I think that's very common, and is exactly what we talked about. The beginning process for your business, it is going to take longer for you to start recouping your costs. If you're in a big fashion brand, you would expect your margin to be over 70% easily. But then bigger companies have got much bigger fixed costs. They've got whole offices full of people. They've got warehouses that they're running. They've got often got stores. Rents, exactly, rates, employees, all of those things. They have to cover those costs. So you're right, smaller runs cost more money, and it is going to be part of that process that we talked about, the whole kind of start small trial and then you move to bigger volumes. That is the ideal model, is you start small, minimal risk, minimal quantities, but then learn from it and then place larger orders. So as I said, we're going to be running through all of the margin calculations in the workshop as well. So that then brings us on to the workshop.
Well, there was one more question that we had on Instagram. Sorry.
Okay. Instagram.
It was, how do you bring your designs to life? So I don't know if we could do it together.
So I think it depends on like what your skills are. Like, if you can sketch it out and start by making, I don't know, paper models or drawings yourself. But if you need to start working with, say, a pattern cutter to really bring it to life, then a grader, then do that. So work with what your skills are to then start actually modeling it out and getting samples made and things.
Yeah. So say, for example, you're a fashion illustrator, but you want to bring that to life. It might be worth hiring a specific spec technical pack drawer. So a true fashion designer in the sense of manufacturing. So somebody who can put the correct measurements on. They know where the sleeve length needs to be measured from. They know what the cross front needs to be, the centre back, the length from the side neck point. You know, all these things that can take your fashion illustration to somebody in a factory that would understand in a 3D way how you want your garment to look. And like Joanne said, then working with a pattern cutter, working with the graders, knowing what fabric you want your design to be in, and all those things will then sort of take a flat drawing to be a 3D garment. But you need somebody to translate in between illustration and pattern cutting, which is where a true fashion designer will come in, who has a background of manufacturing.
Because I mean, I've always found working with pattern cutters, I just think it's the most amazing skill set.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
It is incredible what they do, and their ability to, exactly as you said, to take a 2D sketch and turn it into a 3D garment is it's such an art form. So it is one of those times where you have to say, you've got to know where your limitations are, and unless you're actually a skilled pattern cutter, you're going to want to have it's very hard to manufacture without that.
Yeah, definitely. And the only other way you can do it kind of defeats the object of what we were talking about before, is buying something but just for shape. So say you bought this jumper that has a sleeve like that shape, and you knew you wanted that balloon at the cuff. It might be that you buy something and send that out to make sure you get the exact shape that you want. Or it might be that you buy it, measure it, and then send it back and then send it out to the factory.
Okay.
One more question. We've got a question that's a bit sort of like, how long is a piece of string? But it's, how much does it cost to bring your brand to life?
I think it depends on your vision. It depends on,
how much your quantity is, how expensive your garments are. You know, if you're making a t-shirt brand, that will be very different to making a cashmere brand. So it really, really does depend on the materials that you're working with, the quantities that you're buying, how much you're prepared to put into marketing, you know, how much you're prepared to put into your website. There's quite a few different things that you need to that are variable, I guess.
Okay, great. So then on to the workshop. So it's coming up this Saturday. We're very excited.
1st of September.
We've been working on it all summer. We've been frantically messaging each other, working on the
WhatsApp group.
On the WhatsApp group, creating the slides, creating the workbook, everything it's a brand new workshop that we've worked on together that really complements all of our different skill sets. So Joanne's going to talk us through, well, how about we all talk through what we're going to do? How's that sound?
So I'm going to talk through finding inspiration, spotting trends, how to analyze it, and how to mood board, and then the product development process. So everything from that initial inspiration to your market research, your prototypes, and the design process as well. So I'll be going through all of that.
And then I'll be talking about knowing who your customer is, sourcing manufacturers, which is, I'd say, quite possibly one of the hardest things when starting a fashion brand, is finding a manufacturer to work with small quantities. So there's all sort of like tips and tricks on ways around that, places to go that aren't Google. I think you can go on Google and just be completely overwhelmed and give up, you know. So there's sort of like trade shows that you can go to, or recommendations from other people or agents. But we'll go into all the different ways that you can find somebody. And then we'll also be talking about costings and negotiations and working with factory owners that have been in the business for a really, really long time, and sort of how to stand your ground against those people. and get the best prices possible.
And working with buyers as well.
And working with buyers, yeah.
So
that's
much.
yeah. I mean, I know, Catherine, you've worked with people with that before about how to get into wholesale.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I've been a buyer before, so I know what they like, I know what they don't like, and sort of how to approach them and how to treat them and what to say, what not to say.
And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to be working on the all-important question of how do you price your products. So how do you create a structure for your pricing that makes sense for you, makes you money, and also doesn't confuse your customers, so is consistent across all of your products. And then I'm also going to be talking to you about budgeting, so how you create a simple framework for yourself so that you can keep an eye on where you need to be and staying on track. So it's going to be a really fantastic day. We're all really excited about it, and we would love to have you join us.
Yes, there's only a couple of spaces left, so if you're thinking about it, or whether you're not sure it's for you, like I quite a few people have said, oh, I don't know if it's for me, I don't know if I'm at the right stage or not, but I'd say it's for you, whether you're at the point of you just have an idea and you don't know where to start. Is maybe Saturday could be your place to start, and we'll get you all off the ground. From design and sourcing and manufacturing, costing and planning your money. It could be that you've only just started, but you don't come from a manufacturing background and you feel like you might be winging it a little bit and you need some help and support to sort of get you on further down the journey of your brand. Or it might be the fact that you've just had your brand for a really, really long time and you're a bit like, oh, like I don't know where to take this anymore, and you just need like an injection of inspiration, and you don't know where to take it, but maybe we'll be able to give a different point of view. And
if you're having like a bit of a change of direction in your brand as well, and you want to bring in new products, or you just want to sense check what you're doing, and so and I think definitely for women's, children's, men's fashion brands and accessories as well, but I think it does translate to a lot of brands and just building your business. There's a lot of useful information for a lot of creative businesses.
And also meeting other people who are in the same position as you. You know, other people are just starting out. There's some people that have, like I said, that have been doing it for a really long time, but there's also people that have only just started. So you can all sort of like learn from us guys, but also learn from each other as well.
Yeah, and ask lots of questions, so we're here to help you.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And you know, free food.
And it's worth just saying as well that, you know, all three of us, we've got a lot of experience in big retail companies, but we've also all spent a lot of time working with smaller startups. In fact, we are all small businesses ourselves, so we totally appreciate what the challenges are that you've got, and we're really, that's, you know, who this workshop's for. Anyone who is planning or is beginning, you know, starting thinking about their own fashion brand. And I think as well, we probably all hear a lot from the people that we work with that it's really hard to kind of get that headspace and that time and energy to focus on their business, which is why we wanted to do it in a day on a Saturday, so that, you know, if you're working full time, which many of you are, kind of doing this on the side or planning it on the side, then you can come along, have a whole day dedicated to your dream, to helping make it a reality.
Yeah, treat yourself. It's hard to spend money sometimes in your own business, but if it's going to help you move you further, then definitely do it.
And just give you a little bit of confidence that what you're doing is the right thing, and sort of seeing what from other people, they've done it, so I can do it too. And we also wanted to do it in September because it's that time where you feel like you've got that back to school feeling, and you're sort of, you know, everyone's been a bit sluggish over the summer, especially where it's been boiling hot and you can't be bothered to do anything. But September, I don't know, you just sort of get that feeling where you're ready to start again. Start afresh, get some new life into your business.
And if you do have any questions at all, then do get in touch with any one of us on Instagram or Facebook. Like, we're more than happy to like answer your questions and just see what your thoughts are about it. And because we just want this to be the best day possible for you. So we can't wait to get the most out of it and get raring to go, really.
Somebody else asked on Instagram yesterday whether we'd be doing any e-courses for people that weren't able to get to London, i.e. if they lived in America. And I hope so, would be my answer. We have talked about it already, and this is sort of like, you know, the real life, and then we'll see what people's feedback is, and then use that to move it forward into an e-course in the future, hopefully.
Definitely, but yeah, it wouldn't be until next year for the
No.
area. So,
So if you're planning on it for 2018 now, time to go.
Get all the feedback for this one.
Yeah.
So,
Wonderful, great.
But yeah, so basically details are this Saturday, the 1st of September. It's from 9 till 3, but then we're going to have some networking at the pub afterwards if you're still around till about 4. But yeah, it will be action-packed day. We'll be teaching you everything we know. There's links in all our bios to the tickets, which you can find on Eventbrite, and it's called How to Start and
Build a Fashion Brand.
Yeah. So yeah. And we've got a discount code as well?
Yes, we've got a discount code. For anyone that's following us, the discount code is Fashion10, fashion being in capital letters and then 10.
And that gives you 10% off. So if you're interested, then do come join us, as we'd love to see you there.
Yeah, we'd love to help you and guide you on your way.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks everybody, and we will hopefully see you on Saturday.
Yay! See you Saturday. See you Saturday.
Bye.
Bye.